I have one pedal that has been with me ever since I started taking this bass thing seriously. I've had a tough time with my instruments, battling ups and downs, but this pedal has always been there for me. This pedal is an amazing tone shaper and is seriously underappreciated by the community, or weirdly appreciated for its ability to create the worst distortion tones known to man. What I'm talking is, of course, the amazing, the legendary Boss Metal Zone! Oh wait, no. It's the Ibanez PD7 Phat-Hed. I get a lot of comments on my tone no matter what instrument I'm playing. And while I think that a lot of my tone can be attributed to my string choice and my picking technique, I'm fairly certain that without this pedal I would have had to work way harder to get those tones I'm known for. The PD7 was a part of the Ibanez Tone Lock series, which had these cool knobs that you could press in and kind of lock in place, and essentially looked like Robocop's lunch. The guitar players watching might remember this series from pedals such as the DE7 or the TS7, which I think are still quite desirable. The birth of this pedal and why it has been apparently named after an American rock band called Hed PE remains a mystery to me. So if you've got any insider knowledge or old marketing materials, please send them my way. I'm so interested to know more about this pedal. The full name of the PD7 is Phat-Hed Bass Overdrive, and it definitely has overdrive and distortion, the likes of which I've never heard before. In addition to your normal controls, there's also an attack switch, which I think works kind of like a bright switch before an amplifier gain stage. And let me tell you, these are some of the worst distortion tones I've ever heard. You might be able to somewhat salvage a dead set of strings or high action or bad picking technique with the attack switch, but I'm not sure that's entirely worth it. The attack switch also messes up the most important thing in a bass pedal, which is the mid-range, and that can be a real disaster. The true potential of the PD7, at least to me, lies within the clean circuits, and this circuit is definitely the best part of this pedal and one of the best things I've ever heard a bass pedal do. If you are familiar with how boosting guitar tones works in the heavy metal world, this kind of works like a tube screamer in front of an amp, but just fine-tuned for bass. It does a slight saturation, but most importantly, it pushes in some really nice mids and high mids, cuts out some of the woolly low end and introduces a whole new level of clank. This is why usually when I'm crafting my tones, I always grab the PD7 and leave it on. Unless there is a situation that demands a dramatically cleaner and softer sound, then I might switch that pedal off. Now, some bass players might think that it cuts out some bass. Why would I cut something that my instrument is literally named after? And to me, the most important thing in a bass tone is a clean and nice low end with a mid-range that meshes in perfectly with the other elements of the song, and some articulation in the top end. And that is where mid-range tone shaping comes into play. After all, you've probably got some kind of amp or a preamp pedal with an EQ on it after the PD7 in your signal chain. If you need more bass, just grab that bass control. The thing I love the most about the PD7 is that in addition to boosting out some of the clank and articulation, it can also clean and shape up the dirtiest, wooliest distortion I know. The PD7 is the sole reason I've gotten some usable tones out of my Pork and Pickle, for example, because that distortion can be really dark even with the EQ control on the higher side. And the PD7 just cleans it up and makes it work with everything else I've got. It also works well with other pedals such as the Proco Rat or the Unsound Circuitry Hyperpossum. Hi! As I'm currently editing this, I noticed that this section was a bit on the longer side. And to save myself from the curses of the algorithm and you guys clicking away, I decided to move the rest of it to the end of the video. And there you can hear all the sound examples I took, including with all the pedals on at the same time, which was quite fun and pretty nuts. So stay tuned until the end of the video, and here's some more prattling on about the PD7. See ya! I usually set the PD7 as flat as it can go, which means that all the 3 controls that are active in the clean mode are set at 11 o'clock. This gets the pedal to unity gain and also makes the EQ as flat as it can be. And even though the EQ curve on the face is set to flat, there is an inherent EQ curve within the pedal that produces that mid boost that we've talked about. I don't really use these EQ controls much, but sometimes if my strings are a bit dead, I might increase the high EQ on the pedal. And while we are talking about the EQ, I guess I should share what I know of it. So here is the frequency response that I get with my usual settings. And as you can see, there is that very mild but very important 6 dB boost at around 3 kHz. And that boost as a pre-gain boost is everything you need to get that extra clarity and clank. This curve was achieved with the EQ on the pedal set as flat as it can go, but let's see what each of the controls do on the pedal. It seems like with the low control we are dealing with a bell control that's centered around 80 Hz. And 80 Hz, as we know, is the second harmonic of the low E string on the bass. So if you want to boost some thump into your bass, this control might be a really nice way of doing it. Meanwhile, the EQ on the high side is actually a high shelf, and that makes this clean mode a bit difficult to use, especially if you are boosting it into a distortion pedal. You see, boosting the high frequencies into a distortion usually ends up just accentuating your string noise and bringing up all the hiss you can think of. There is very little interesting in a bass signal above 5 kHz, so I'd be kind of careful with this one. Unless you are Fieldy from Korn, of course. There are a few downsides to the pedal though that we can't really ignore. Because these were low to medium budget pedals at the time, the build quality isn't super good. I've had one pedal that has the input jack kind of really tight. I think I broke it some way when I took the back of the pedal off. And on most of these, the switch is quite finicky. It can require multiple presses to turn it on, but it's not really a problem for me because once I turn it on, I leave it on. But if you are turning it on and off, just be mindful of that, or change the switch. This pedal can also be quite noisy because even on the clean side, it adds an audible hiss into your signal, and especially if you are boosting it into distortion. But luckily the hiss is still quite low, at least when I'm using my Darkglass pedals, so you can easily cut that out with a standard noise gate. There is also the problem of availability, and maybe it wasn't such a great idea to make a video about a pedal that was discontinued way back, almost 20 years ago. While these were probably sold by the dozen at the time, these don't seem to pop up that often anymore. I've had some luck and I've managed to get 3 of these, one of which is permanently in my pedal board and 2 of which I have here, but that has included me buying every unit that I've come across, or almost every unit. I've set my price at around 60 to 70 euros on the second-hand market, because that's what I really think these pedals are worth. Luckily, you can emulate most of what the PD7 does by just boosting 3K into your distortions. It's that simple. You can try it out on your multi-effects or in your DAW, and it's really simple. So, do you need this pedal in your collection? That is, as always, up for you to decide, but I have to say that this pedal alone has opened up so many tones for me that I never would have thought about otherwise. So far it has got a permanent place on my pedal board, or at least until someone builds me a more compact and more roadworthy version of the clean side. Pedal builders, hit me up. And that is it about this pedal and why I use it. I've been getting a lot of questions about it, and I think it was high time I answered those questions in a video format. Thank you for watching so far, and please do subscribe if you are so inclined. Next time we will either be covering the new Nightwish song or talking about these pickups that DiMarzio just sent me. So I'll see you in one of those videos. Bye!